Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Joining me today, we've got Michael McCubbin and Henry Hill. The Continental Club derby took place last night between Man United and Fulham.
True.
McCubs, you must be delighted with the result.
Delighted with the result. I can't remember the last time I was so stressed out in the final 5 minutes of the game. I don't want to see Alexander Mitrovic ever again. I was so scared when he came on. I just knew he was going to score, and he nearly did. But delighted with the result, obviously, and Pogba's goal was just a thing of beauty, wasn't it?
Absolutely, what a goal. One of the only midfielders in the world that I think could show that sort of feat and then curl it in with his weaker foot. Gorgeous. But Henry, I mean, your side showed a lot of spirit, really, and you took a lot of flack afterwards, but I thought fair play Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest worry is we're going to get relegated and everyone will be like, oh, you look really good. Yeah, you played really well. It's like, well, I'm not sure that really counts.
The pat on the head.
But yeah, I had that bet with Joe. I had bet Joe Tomlinson about a month ago that Fulham would at least take a point. And we're probably about an inch away from making that happen. And yeah, he gave me a lot of grief on WhatsApp afterwards, which didn't help me sleep very well. I can tell you that much.
Oh, sleepless nights after that, yeah. That Eric Bailly, when it deflected off him, that was so close. But anyway, let's get back to European football, because we've got a banging show lined up for you today, because Jagan0903 says, talk about managers on the continent, who could be sacked. Now, obviously, we're about halfway through most leagues, and pressure is starting to build on a few managers. We're going to talk about two managers that are under serious pressure, I would argue, and one who could be considered maybe having a slightly underwhelming season. But McCubs, we're going to kick off with Andrea Pirlo at Juventus.
Yeah.
Because it's been a weird campaign, although they got a great result on Wednesday night in the Super Cup.
Yeah, they did. And I think that does... I mean, hopefully, Andrea Pirlo will be hoping that that's a bit of a springboard for the rest of the season. I think also just to get a trophy under his belt is really important as well. I think if they'd lost that, then the question marks really do start to arise, don't they, about his credentials as a manager. And I know like Super Cups aren't the be all and end all, but the Spanish Super Cup is definitely held in higher regard than, say, the Community Shield is here. And I expect the Italian Super Coppa as well is similarly thought of. Although I might be wrong. Italian football fans, let me know in the comments if I am wrong about that. But yeah, and a big win as well over who are one of Juve's closest rivals this year in Napoli, and ultimately probably a deserved result on the night. But back to kind of Andrea Pirlo's general kind of tenure so far. Obviously, like, none of us were really a big fan of his appointment, were we? It seemed to be done quite hastily after Sarri's sacking. Obviously, Pirlo had zero managerial experience at all. Didn't even have his coaching badges, did he? When he took the job, and was given just 6 weeks to prepare for the new campaign. I guess their form this season has kind of been as expected when you think about that kind of lack of preparation time. They've only won just 9 of their 17 league games so far. That's 4 fewer than at this stage under Sarri last season. And the last time they had fewer points that at this stage of the season was back in 2010-11 when they finished 7th under Luis Del Neri. So already, not great signs in a season where, Serie A is probably more competitive than it's been in a while, at least in terms of how open the title race is. Similarly, I think to the Premier League and La Liga up until a few weeks ago, there just seems to have been, the kind of knock-on effect of what happened last season is just that, it's just a bit more of a free-for-all, isn't it? So equally, you can see why Juve's form has dipped off, but at the same time, it's probably easier now than before to win this league. So there's no doubt about it. Like, this is a disappointing season for Juve, even if fans expected a bit of a drop-off after the summer. Their main issue has been too many draws. Only Torino and Parma have drawn more than their 6 league games. They have struggled to put games to bed, and especially, that they're still very reliant on Cristiano Ronaldo as well, which is something that you thought would have been addressed in the summer a bit, but just hasn't really happened. I mean, 2 of their signings have been the other 2 top scorers in Chiesa and Morata, but there aren't really many goals coming from, say, midfield. which is something that, say, Inter Milan haven't struggled with this season. Nicola Barella, for example, chipping in with goals and assists, and scored that excellent goal against Juve on the weekend. But their recruitment has mainly been focused on reducing that wage bill, hasn't it? Obviously, we weren't expecting fireworks from them last summer, but already by then, they'd already got in quite a few top young players. Kulusevski, Demiral, De Ligt. See, Rabiot was bought this previous summer as well. Chiesa was brought in on that loan deal. And they got rid of a lot of older players like Mandzukic, Pjanic, Matuidi, Higuain, Douglas Costa. But equally, there were some players who I think they should have maybe taken a bit more of a chance on. Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, who's having an excellent season at Atalanta. I think his deal is a 2-year loan, and Atalanta then have an option to buy for 16 million euros, which would represent I think a 9 million euro loss on what Juve paid for him in 2019. I think he could have been an excellent option at centre-back. And I think they've missed a bit of a trick there, considering that Pirlo is still relying on Bonucci and Chiellini in that back line so heavily. Obviously, Juve have relied on kind of ageing centre-backs for a long time, but if Pirlo really wants to transition this team, then successfully, I think he needs to rejuvenate that back line. Obviously, De Ligt is in there, but he does need a partner, and I think Cristiano Ronaldo would have been the guy. I think we're yet to see kind of Demiral, on a consistent basis as well. So perhaps that can work, but yeah, I do think they missed a trick there. And their recent form has been really bad as well. That 3-0 loss to Fiorentina just before Christmas, really, really poor performance there. And obviously, as we said, that 2-0 loss to Inter Milan, where Antonio Conte very much outclassed his former pupil. So yeah, not great times for Juve. Do I think he's going to be sacked soon? I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. But they are 10 points off Inter Milan at the top of the table with a game in hand. So if they win that game in hand, AC Milan. If they win that game in hand, they go 7 points off. Halfway through the season, that is not insurmountable by any means. But there is a lot of teams around them who can take points off them, aren't there? And who are showing pretty good form. Atalanta, who we'll get onto in a bit, are always a threat, even though they've been a bit under par this season. Napoli have been unexpectedly excellent this season. So yeah, it's a really tough time for Juve at the moment in terms of their kind of Serie A supremacy probably coming to an end. And if they struggle to get Champions League football as well, or they don't progress to the Champions League quarter-finals, then I think alarm bells will start ringing.
I think that's probably fair to say. I think initially he was sort of struggling for his best side, his best formation. He was the only sort of top manager in Italy that had changed jobs. I mean, obviously it was going to take him a little while, but I think there are pleasing signs in the performances of Chiesa recently, Kulusevski, as you say. But there's just weaknesses in that squad, particularly at the back when Demiral's missed games, Chiellini's obviously missed a hell of a lot of games, Alexandro's missed a lot of games, and they've had to play for Botta or Danilo. Danilo's actually had a surprisingly good season, but I don't really rate him as a player. Cuadrado's now getting on a bit at right back, although he played very well against Napoli in the Super Cup. So there's plenty for Pirlo to get his teeth stuck into, but I'm with you. I don't think changing manager again is the right option. You need to stick with this manager, they need to stick with this group of players, unless Champions League football is looking like it's going to be off the cards, which I don't think it will be, given the talent in that squad. But let's move over from Italy now to Spain, Henry, because I don't think a lot of people would have, we've covered Real Madrid a lot on this show. We've covered, obviously, Barcelona a lot on this show. We've covered Valencia a lot on this show. But Real Betis, maybe a slightly underwhelming season?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like you said, we could have talked about Javi Gracia. And actually, it's interesting you say Real Madrid, because I think after they lost to a third-tier side in the Copa del Rey, Alcoyano, I was reading that a lot of Spanish outlets were saying there's no way back for Zidane and stuff like that. So it's quite quite timely to see that when I knew we were talking about this. But yes, Manuel Pellegrini over at Real Betis, hired there in July 2020, 7 months after being sacked by West Ham. In principle, great addition. Real Madrid manager, Man City manager, I think probably will be remembered as one of he maybe didn't get the respect he deserved as the Manchester City manager. I think what he achieved there was unbelievable. And it looked like a really good move for Real Betis, considering in 15th under Rubi, they finished 5 points clear of relegation in 15th place, 9 fewer points than with Quique Setien in 2018-19. And that was hugely disappointing because of the kind of investments they'd made in the squad up to that point, as we'll have a little bit of a look later. But to be fair to Pellegrini, he didn't really get much backing of his own in the market. They had a bit of a quiet summer. Bought in Martin Montoya. You might remember him from Brighton. Claudio Bravo arrived on free from Manchester City. And then Juan Miranda as well on loan from Barcelona. So not substantial kind of waves made in the market there. And I mean, unsurprisingly, it's been a bit average. Certainly in the opening start of the season, they only won 4 wins from the opening 11 league games, which left them in 15th again. And in that run, they were beaten 3-0 by Getafe, 3-0 by Sociedad, 5-2 by Barcelona, and 4-0 by Athletic Bilbao. So really got some, on the ends of some real hidings there. They have recovered a little bit in the last few games, in the last 8 certainly. 4 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses as well. Scored 12 and conceded 8, and now sit in 8th position, which has actually bumped them to 7 points off Villarreal. But they're only 7 points clear of 16th place Real Valladolid as well. And yeah, no one's lost more than their 9 league games or conceded more than their 32 goals. And I just had to look at their stats. And the foundations of a really good team are there. They're the third. They take the 3rd most shots in La Liga, behind Real Madrid and Barcelona at the moment. And they concede the 5th fewest shots as well. So when you hear that, it is remarkable that they've conceded the amount of goals they do, that they're kind of being rolled over in the teams. It seems once teams get ahead of them, they sort of break down, and they're struggling to sort of maintain that intensity throughout the whole of the match. And if we look at kind of the players within the squad who are potentially struggling as well, Sergio Canales and Christian Teo, the only players who've scored above 4 goals this season, 3 goals, sorry, in fact. And then there's Borja Iglesias, who was bought for 28 million euros in 2019. He's proved to be a complete waste of money. 4 goals in 48 La Liga appearances. For a club like Real Betis, with the budget they have, that is just simply unacceptable as a transfer. That's an absolute shocker. Someone who's had a bit of a better time since going to Betis, Nabil Fekir. I think we're all surprised when he did end up going there eventually. But he still isn't quite at his best. 7 goals and 4 assists in 32 games in 1920 was a solid return. But this year, 1 goal, 2 assists in 16 league games. The Frenchman, his shots inside the box have fallen to 1.5 from 1.9 from his final campaign with Lyon in France. And his key passes from 2.3 to 1.2. So he's... expected goal still has him at about 0.43, but he's struggling to meet that at the moment. But he's still, I think, easily within this Betis squad, the person he could invent a moment of genius. And he scored some great goals last season, truth be told. So I'm sure he's the kind of guy that Pellegrini will be relying on to kind of drag their team through. And it's looking like there might be outgoings as well. William Carvalho is being strongly linked with a return to Benfica. And I've read, I think, Socrates from Arsenal, he could be a Betis player in the next few days. So maybe that's what they need to kind of shore up the back. But yeah, I think considering the pedigree that Pellegrini arrived at the club and what he's achieved in Spain, certainly, I think they would have been expecting a little bit more than this. I don't think he's going to get fired. I'm sure you guys probably agree with that sentiment. I don't think they're in a position probably to fire him right now. And the La Liga has been a bit topsy-turvy for a number of clubs. But it is alarming to see the number of shots they're conceding. And I do think that at some point the results have to give, and he has to kind of start winning the board over in favour. Because Betis are a big club and they do deserve probably a bit more than they've experienced over the last few seasons.
Yeah, I agree. It depends what the sort of parameters of the season were. I think with that amount of spending, he probably wasn't under that much pressure to sort of get top 8. And that win against Celta Vigo in midweek has put them up to 8. But as you say, just too many goals conceded. It's incredibly tight. It could change in an instant. But I agree with you. I don't think he's going to be fired. I think he's a really good appointment for Real Betis. I really like Manuel Pellegrini. Always have. I mean, what an absolute gentleman, and got some fantastic results. Unfortunately for him, it just didn't work out for him and Mario Jasillo, the sporting director at West Ham, and some of their signings went slightly awry. So Manuel Pellegrini probably not under that much pressure for his immediate future. But one guy who certainly is Frank Lampard. Now, he's probably the biggest talking point in English football at the moment, so we had to talk about him because not only, we're not turning this into Sunday vibes and we're not going to discuss Chelsea in any great detail, but the names being led that we're being led to believe are lined up to replace him are pretty interesting and very much Continental Club worthy. So as we all know, one defeat in their opening 11 games meant Chelsea were 2 points off the table toppers Spurs on the 5th of December. But since then, get this, they played 8, won 2, drawn 1, lost 5, scored 8 and conceded 12. They have taken 7 points from a possible 24 and they are now 11 points off Man United and 5 off 4th place Liverpool at the time of writing. Now, we all know there are issues in their squad. Christian Pulisic hasn't played particularly well on coming back from injury, although I'll cut him a lot of slack. Kurt Zouma has gone from first choice to seemingly out of the picture in a matter of weeks, with Rudiger going from 5th choice to first choice. It's all a bit bizarre. But the main talking point is Timo Werner, who scored 1 goal since, I think, the 7th of November against Morecambe, and Kai Havertz, who just hasn't really gelled at all. Although there was moments in that Leicester game on Tuesday night, where I thought he was starting to click a little bit more, but just too much on the periphery. He's looking silky in points, but just not really dangerous. And I feel like Frank still doesn't know his best formation. He obviously didn't have N'Golo Kante on Tuesday night as well, which seemed to really sort of upset their midfield balance, and their attacking play just has no fluency at the moment whatsoever. So while some of their signings have worked out well, it just hasn't really gone to plan for Frank Lampard, and he's obviously under massive pressure with that summer spending. He doesn't really have any excuses anymore. I mean, last year, obviously, with the transfer ban, the loss of Hazard, just in his second year in management, I think everyone cut him a lot of slack. This year, he's got one of the best squads in the league. There aren't really any excuses. Now, The Athletic are reporting that the Chelsea hierarchy are considering a change, and they are looking to go German. I don't know why specifically they're just narrowing their search German, but that's what the Athletic say. And supposedly the names in the hat are Thomas Tuchel, Julian Nagelsmann and Ralf Rangnick, along with Ralf Hasenhuttl as well, which means that all 4 of the last Leipzig coaches, I believe, are now being linked with the Chelsea job. So you can see the sort of potential style of play that they're trying to integrate, very much fast movement, not so much focus on possession, quick counter-attacks, quick transitions, getting the ball into forward areas as quick as possible. And I think it would be easy at this point to say that's all about Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. It's all about integrating those two. But I think it's a bit more than that. I mean, they'll be familiar with Christian Pulisic, obviously from his time in the Bundesliga. And the Athletic report actually claimed that Chelsea, have long been admirers of Jurgen Klopp, even before he went to Liverpool. And they've seen how he sort of galvanised Liverpool, what he sort of managed to introduce there in terms of team spirit, a style of play, how he's made players better. And that's the sort of move they're looking for. Now, I don't think Julian Nagelsmann is going to go to Chelsea mid-season. Before we even start talking about this, I don't think Chelsea should get rid of Frank Lampard at the moment. I'd wait until the end of the year, or at least a couple of months before the end of the year. And if it looks like they're not going to make Champions League football, then maybe make a change there. But I feel like Thomas Tuchel, I don't think it's an instant improvement in terms of they'll definitely make top 4 if they appoint Thomas Tuchel right now. I think any new manager, it gives such a benefit to bring your own signings in, work in a pre-season, as we've seen with Andrea Pirlo as well, have a long time to adapt. I just don't think now is the time to change for Chelsea. And especially with their run of games coming up, which includes Luton, Wolves, Burnley, Spurs and Sheffield United. And they should win 4 of those 5. So things could change very, very quickly. So I'm personally against changing Lampard at the moment. But McCubs, of those names, I mean, Tuchel, Nagelsmann, Ralf Rangnick, Hasenhuttl, does anyone jump out at you for that Chelsea job?
Not massively, to be honest. I think Hasenhuttl, I would actually maybe say is the strongest candidate. I know it's probably quite lazy analysis to say that, because he's been in the Premier League, that puts him in an advantage. But I think it does maybe to an extent. I think we've seen what he the job he's done at Southampton has been fantastic, hasn't it? On a pretty limited budget. Still managed to, Southampton have been excellent this season despite the fact that they lost probably their, second most influential player in Højbjerg over the summer. The way that he's improved players like Vestergaard. Obviously, he's been fantastic with Danny Ings as well. Che Adams as well after a really difficult first season. I don't know, he's similarly to a lot of those other players, he's really good at galvanising a team. And okay, he might not have the kind of magnetism of someone like Tuchel or Klopp in particular, but I still think he'd be quite popular with the fans. Very, very good tactician. Certainly a much more accomplished tactician than Frank Lampard. I would out of those four, I think I'd go for Hasenhuttl.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think he's done a very good job this year, especially with Vestergaard missing the last month or so. Aurelio Mayo's had his injury issues as well. So fair play to Southampton, fair play to Hasenhuttl, the one Austrian in the hat with 3 Germans, apparently, according to The Athletic. But guys, crucially, we want to hear from you. Do you think Andrea Pirlo is under pressure? Do you think Zinedine Zidane could lose his job? Do you think Manuel Pellegrini is underperforming at Real Betis? And do you think Frank Lampard could be given the chop? Let us know in the comments down below. And let's move on to our big match preview. There are loads of big games going on across Europe this weekend. So in La Liga, Atletico Madrid host Valencia, Schalke are taking on Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga, and Monaco are taking on Marseille in a sort of South Coast Ligue 1 derby at this weekend as well. But the biggest game of this weekend is without doubt in Serie A. It's AC Milan taking on Atalanta, first versus sixth. Absolutely huge. AC Milan having a lot of injuries, but Henry, the pressure... I mean, AC Milan responded very well on Monday night, is what I'm trying to say, after that Inter Milan victory.
Yeah, it was on them. Inter Milan went top of the division for a little bit, and I think they're playing each other in 5 days' time in the Coppa Italia, I think, in the quarterfinals. That'll be a really spicy affair, just to sort of get a bit of bragging rights over one another, especially because they then play each other next month as well, which I'm sure we'll preview on this show. But yeah, the Rossoneri responded to being overtaken by beating Cagliari 2-0 away from home with 2 goals from the unstoppable Zlatan Ibrahimovic, even though they did have Salamakers sent off. It wasn't a brilliant display, but I kind of had hallmarks of a team sort of knowing the importance of the victory. XG had it at 1.2 to 1.7 in their favour, but they did more than enough, getting 6 of their 10 shots on target. And, you know, the best news is that Zlatan is back amongst the goals. 3rd game back following an injury, but just his 2nd start. And he won 7 aerial duels, put in 3 tackles and interceptions, created a chance, fired off 5 shots, scoring twice. Although one was from a penalty he won. So that kind of just showed he really was up for that game. Back to his best. I mean, we've talked about him enough, certainly on this channel, but he just, better and better. He now has 12 goals and 1 assist in 8 Serie A games this season. That is bonkers. Still averaging a goal contribution every 48 minutes. Only Ronaldo with 15 has scored more, but he's played 6 more games. I love the fact the top 2 scorers in Serie A right now have a combined age of like 65. So it's,
might be older than that.
Football.
I think it's over 70 actually.
Yeah,
about it. I think it might be 73
over 70,
or something.
Yeah. Goodness, that is Italian football at its finest, isn't it? But yeah, as a team, they've still only lost 1 of their 18 league games this season and only failed to win on 5 occasions. Solid at both ends. Inter Milan, Napoli and Atalanta have the only teams to have scored more than their 39 league goals. And we remember last week, I think we were talking how Milan could probably do with another attacking midfielder, certainly to help out Ibrahimovic up top as well. But then only Napoli, Verona and Juve have conceded fewer than their 19. It's really exciting. I think Tomori looks like he's definitely going to go there, so that's going to be an incredible chance for him over the next 6 months. Another really solid centre-back signing for that. And if they can convince him to stay, I think 30 million euros for a player of his quality. It's nothing's confirmed, I should say, but 30 million euros for a player of his quality looks like a really intelligent piece of business from Milan. It just shows the kind of pulling power they have as this kind of reform giant. But yeah, XG rates them as the 4th best side, 2 points behind Napoli in first, but it is so tight in Serie A right now, which is, like you said, why this game matters more than ever. And they've beaten Napoli, Inter, Sassuolo and Lazio this season, but drawn with Roma and lost to Juve. They need another positive result in this one to keep that kind of energy going. And yeah, I'm really excited for this game. Atalanta haven't been at the best, as I'm sure McCubs will get onto, but yeah, the pressure is on AC Milan. It's going to be really interesting to see how they respond.
Absolutely. I mean, huge game for them. I mean, I'll get onto their injury issues in just a bit, but let's cover Atalanta first, McCubs, because it's been kind of a weird campaign for them.
Yeah, I mean, they've stabilised their form, haven't they, since the end of November, but that first month or 2 kind of did kill their title hopes a little bit, didn't it? They only won 4 of their opening 9 games. They lost 3 of those. And yeah, they've been unbeaten since the 28th of November, but a lot of draws in there. Drew against Juve away, drew away against Bologna, Genoa and Udinese obviously on Wednesday night. Another draw in a game which was pretty evenly matched all round. They're still in 6th. They're only 1 point off third place Napoli, who do have a game in hand, it must be said. But yes, similar kind of waters to Juve at the moment. Their attackers still very good. Only Napoli take more than their 16.9 shots. Napoli take 18.5. For context, that's more than anyone in the Premier League this season. And their defence is still the best in the division. They only concede 8.5 shots per game. They tend to concede slightly higher quality chances than some of the teams around them, though. I think Napoli only concede something like 0.9 xG per game. They concede 1, but still very solid, considering what we know they can do up top. Obviously, the loss of Papu Gomez hasn't been great, has it? You know, his falling out with Gasperini, which he hasn't played since November, has he? So, I think since the start of December. I think that Juve game was his last appearance. That's definitely blunted them a little bit. However, they do still have players who can make it happen, don't they? You know, Duvan Zapata, 7 goals and 4 assists in 17 league games this term. Luis Muriel continues to kind of defy logic with his incredibly clinical kind of displays. 11 goals, 2 assists in 16 league games so far. Only 5 of those are starts. Goal contribution every 41 minutes from Luis Muriel. It just doesn't stop with him. He's just so ridiculously efficient. Obviously got the goal against Udinese the other night as well. Just so composed in the box. Just knows how to score a goal, doesn't he? Great analysis from myself there.
True.
But I still think they'll probably come up short in this game, though. I think just AC Milan just have too many match winners in that squad now, especially with Zlatan Ibrahimovic back. I just think Atalanta's form has been just not explosive enough this season. And I think coming up against a side which has come up clutch in so many big moments so far this campaign, I think they probably will come up short, even if the game is fairly even, which I think it will be. I'm not overly confident about Atalanta's chances.
You're right. I mean, they have stepped up in big moments, and their sort of supporting cast has been absolutely crucial. And they're going to have to be, out on their game again this weekend, because the Rossoneri really aren't in the best of shape with their injuries. So Benacer, Gabbia and Kayer are out. Theo Hernandez and Calhanoglu have COVID. Romagnoli, Salamakers and Donnarumma are suspended. So I actually don't know who's going to be at centre-back. I mean, maybe they'll be able to get Tomori in time. I'm not sure whether the paperwork will go through. I'm not sure how long it takes to register a player in Serie A. So maybe he'll go straight in for his debut against Atalanta, placing either, probably Zapata from the start and then Luis Muriel. That'll be quite tough. Atalanta, meanwhile, they've only got Pasalic missing, and Papu Gomez, as we say, probably won't feature due to his suspension. Atalanta have had the better of this fixture recently. They've had just 1 defeat in their last 10 meetings in all competitions, dating back to November 2015, but only 2 wins in that time. So notoriously, it's tight. Notoriously, it's a draw. Henry, what is your score prediction? AC Milan ruined by COVID and injuries, but still on this phenomenal run. And Atalanta, as we've covered, bit up and down.
Well, now you've read out that injury list,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more inclined. I mean, there's one team you don't want to have a sort of ruined defence against. I suppose it's Atalanta, because they're with all their kind of creativity and attacking threat going forward. I'm going to go for Atalanta. I think they might sneak this 2-1. Based on that injury list alone, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if AC Milan won or got a draw. But sure, why not Atalanta for this one?
Fair enough. McCubs, are you in agreement?
I must admit I didn't realise that Theo Hernandez and Calhanoglu had COVID, and I didn't realise Donnarumma was suspended as well. So that was bad on my part. Thinking about that, I think it might be a draw. I think one thing to keep an eye on, though, is the battle between Cristiano Ronaldo and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think that's going to be fascinating, because both players who are very good in the air, both incredibly physically imposing players as well. So I think that will be a really fascinating battle. But I think 1-1. I think Milan might just not find that winning goal.
Fair. And watch out for Robin Gosens as well. Every time I watch Atalanta this year, he's just such a threat going forward. I mean, Calabria will have his, a tough day at the office, let's say. I'm going to go with a 2-0 Atalanta victory. I think it might come to an end for AC Milan. I mean, they've obviously lost one, but this phenomenal run of form, I just feel like that injury list is just too extensive. But I'll be happy to be proved wrong. Guys, get your score predictions for it in the comments down below, and let's move on to our quickfire question. Our quickfire question, we're going to have to do this pretty rapido because McCubs doesn't have that much space left on his phone, but it comes in from Max Vigor 2. If you could watch one team play tomorrow, I assume he means live, who would it be? McCubs?
I think in terms of the football, RB Leipzig. I've
nice.
always been really impressed by them, especially since Nagelsmann took over last year. I just think watching how their games play out tactically in person would be really fascinating, because you're always a bit limited when you're watching them on TV. You're never quite seeing what happens everywhere on the pitch. So they would be great. And then as for like atmosphere, I don't know. I really want to go back to a non-league game, to be honest. I'm itching for it.
Love it.
That's the thing I've missed most, I think, about this lockdown. So yeah, Leipzig is my answer from a top
Leipzig
team.
or Hampton and Richmond.
Basically, yeah.
I love the variety. Henry, where are you putting where are you heading to tomorrow?
Well, if Craven Cottage is shut, then I'm probably. I've always wanted to go to Germany and see a proper German game. St. Pauli in the second division, they're notoriously loud and fun. Dynamo Dresden.
What a hipster.
Dresden as well, and I think Hamburg as well. That all these sort of classic German clubs that create a real racket. I'd love to go and kind of join in on that as well. But yeah, I'd also love to see Ronaldo before he retires. He's the one kind of big player I've never seen. So if there's a chance to go out to Juve and just see him play once, that would like complete my kind of sticker book of sort of big names that I'd like to see live. But yeah, probably those teams, and of course Club Bruges if they want to send me a season ticket at any point. So I'm actually embarrassed I just said that. But yeah, anyway, that's what I'd go for.
No, you got to.
No, I love it. Club Bruges or Hampton and Richmond. That's perfect. I am going to actually sell out, and I'm going to say the Bernabeu. Even though I think this is probably the least entertaining Real Madrid side of the last 10 years at least. And they're not in particularly good form as well. I'm a bit of a Madrista.
I thought,
if I have to
Dougie,
be honest,
I was adamant you would go for Boca Juniors. I thought you'd love to go out.
Yeah, I mean them too. That's just further afield, and I think in these COVID times it's even more unlikely.
Okay.
But yeah, Boca Juniors would be epic as well. I'd love to go to Argentina. It's probably top of my bucket list alongside New Zealand. Anyway, we're getting off track now, but I'd love to go see Real Madrid. I'd love to go see Inter Milan. Probably in the last 2 years, I don't know. I've never really had European sides that I sort of support, but in the last 2 years, I sort of developed it. I don't really know what's happened. Anyway, but yeah. Get me to New Zealand, get me to Argentina sometime soon. Anyway, that's all we've got time for on Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, talking about sackings, AC Milan, Atalanta, where we'd like to go and watch, etc., etc. Let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments down below. And Henry, what should they go and watch now?
We've got a really interesting 10 about the 10 worst players to graduate from La Masia. Really well written, actually. I enjoyed watching that. I think worst is maybe a slightly harsh word, but you'll get the gist when you watch it. And also give some support to the Barcelona election explained that McCubbin wrote as well, because that's really interesting stuff. And if you guys want to be in the know as we are on Continental Club, then these are the kind of videos you have to be up to date with.
Absolutely. McCubs, anything from you?
Just go and watch the football pyramids. It's all hotting up in the finals. Go and watch that. It's myself against Zach tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, go check out all the other explains as well. We did one on PSG, which was written by Henry. We did, what were the other ones? We've done loads over the last kind of month or so, and they're all really good. So go check them out.
Absolutely, and go check out yesterday's scout report on Bayern Munich.
Yes.
Blimey, we've got a lot of content out at the moment on Euro Football Daily. Lots of good stuff. Go get stuck into that. Remember to support the podcast channel and Football Daily as well, and we'll see you next week. Bye.